it's becoming clear that this could be the last 8 games of the big 3, 9 if they get into the play-in and don't win it. So I'm overcome with emotion from that vantage point. I want to see if this road trip is really, where they beat kind of some pretenders. And I want to just see them win a game at home because they've been struggling at home. And I want them to take it to Luka and Kyrie tonight. And
what if they do? What if they do?
Again, I'll feel a whole hell of a lot better about their chances moving forward when that night comes, whoever they play, either at home or on the road in that play-in game. But if Jonathan Kuminga is out another game, then that's me worrying, before or regardless of what happens on the court, tonight if he's not there. So I got a lot going on in my melon, and I'll leave you with this. I thought about Klay Thompson's future, and I mean this to the core. I don't think the Warriors are in any position to say bye-bye to Klay Thompson with his specialty is shooting. The league is about shooting. And this team, Steiny, I'm going Mark Jackson, doesn't have any shooters. So how in the hell can you not do your damnness, Joe Lacob and company, to keep him a Golden State Warrior?
Well as he's shooting it, he's having the worst shooting year of his career. So you have to think about 2 years down the line and what he might shoot from 3. He's shooting 38% right now. He's definitely still a threat, but if you're telling me they can't afford to lose Klay, and I'm not saying I disagree with you.
I'm hearing you. I'm listening.
Well, then we're running it back, aren't we?
Now,
for the most part.
I think you might be onto something.
Because Tim Kawakami of The Athletic was on with the afternoon show. Here's what he said about Draymond Green.
I hear this from the Warriors stakeholders, as I wrote, not just the last few days, but over the last few weeks, last few months, even last few years, is that he's worth it. They make that decision every time. And at some point, he probably won't be worth it. And that might be in a year, it might be in 2 years. If there's some great trade offer for him, it might be this offseason, but I don't think that's coming. And a game like last night is why they make these decisions. I'll tell the honest truth is I was going to write a column on Draymond is very similar to the one it turned out even before that game happened, just presuming he was going to have a really good game, just because that's the way it goes with Draymond. Something controversial happens, something that pushes the Warriors and the fans and the nation to wonder, is this guy, should he still be around? And he usually pulls out a great game or 2 or 3 or 5.
Well, if they're not moving Draymond and you need Klay, then you're essentially going to try to move Wiggins. Is that going to be enough? I guess what I'm saying for Warrior fans is, and I just kind of throwing this out. I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff out there today because there's a lot going on, and one is the idea of the Warriors having big changes if things don't end well. Are Warrior fans ready for big changes? I was talking to a buddy tonight, or yesterday rather, and he's like, I'm just not ready for this to end yet. I'm just not ready for it to end.
I feel that.
All right. So I don't, and obviously he was talking about this season, but my question is kind of where are the Warrior fans at? Is it as simple as, listen, if they make a run, they get into the playoffs, maybe win a series, you know what? Maybe we do run it back. Is that a possibility? If the Warriors somehow get into the playoffs, and even if they lose, let's say in the first round, but they take it to 6 games, will that be enough to stave off changes? Is there a result that the Warriors can have this year where we look at this team and say, you know what? God, let's bring it back one more time. Wiggins played pretty well down the stretch, and Draymond had a good last 12 games, and the young guys are growing. Steph still playing at a high level. Let's get Klay back here. I guess what I'm wondering is, are fans more excited about that idea or the idea of, at the end of the season, Klay becomes a question mark, and we're going to try to move somebody to make this team better. What do you want to see, Goo?
Addition, the plus button on the calculator. And everything you want, you can't have. And I know there's financial restraints, but I don't want to see Klay Thompson in another uniform. Tim Kawakami's an icon out here, Steiny, but I'm being real here. So because he said he talked to the stakeholders, are you taking that to the bank 100?
No,
to where they're okay?
Absolutely not.
So to me, then, big could be, Draymond Kuminga package. I'm just throwing stuff out there. That's what qualifies to me as big. But and I've always thought this was a possibility, kind of running it back with no suspensions. Where are you at then? I'm okay with that.
I'm not. I'm not. And I'm interested. And you've brought this up a lot, and I don't dismiss it at all. And it's the idea of, well, if Draymond wouldn't have got suspended.
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Where would they be? Instead of 40 and 32?
Would you guys laugh me off the block if I said 6?
That's too many for me.
Is that too many for you, Evan? 6 seed?
A 6 seed? Or I thought you meant 6 games.
Yeah, no, 6 seed. If maybe Draymond had not got suspended and only missed 3 games of the amount that he missed.
Potentially, but then also you might not have had the emergence of Kuminga, who's a big reason you're playing good basketball. So, I think they're probably in this position one way or the other, because if the older guys stay healthy, maybe Kerr is still hanging on to him.
But here's a bigger question. Can you go into next year assuming that Draymond Green is going to have a year like he hasn't had in the past 2?
Well, last year he played 70 games.
Right, but he punched a teammate and he messed up the season.
I think
this year he got suspended for 25 games. That's where I think I don't know, I'm not a Warrior fan, but to me that idea of let's bring Dray back and count on him to play 68 to 72 games at a high level with no incidents. How excited are fans about that? Or how realistic? In other words, if I told a fan, you know what, we're going to, we probably won't get a great deal for Draymond anyway. He's still very important to us. We're bringing him back. He's going to be on the team next year, and by golly, let's hope we can get 70 games out of him and high level of play. Do you go into the season with that being your expectation? That's risky to me.
Well, I'm a lover and a dreamer, and I'll say this to that. We don't know what the ramifications were for Draymond Green and what happened last week in Orlando. But what if I told you, Steiny, that hurt him to the point of, or that woke him up to where next year that won't happen? You could call me a fool or be in denial, but reality is...
If that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel. I'm wondering how other Warrior fans feel about that.
Well, let's put the right on the table, brought to you by Atco. If this were a poker game, I don't like the hand I have if I'm Joe Lacob. You know what I mean? That's
you don't get to have
aces.
You don't get to have a great hand at the end of a dynasty.
Oh, man.
There are going to be brutal decisions to be made.
So
there's no doubt about it.
Let's just talk about what you just said, the end of a dynasty. If you went around...
People aren't even ready to say that right now.
But what if they're feeling it, and maybe that's why the mood is melancholy, like you talked about yesterday.
It's possible.
I hated series that I used to watch Alice, and One Day at a Time, and every time they had that finale to where the show was over, your boy was sad, Steiny. And I feel like there's some of that with the Warriors. Now, if Klay comes back and is still the big 3, okay, maybe they're done winning titles, but I still get to watch them aspire to try to get back.
Would you?
And, as crazy as that sounds.
So you would almost... You'd be willing to give up success, like winning a title, for these guys to play 2 or 3 more years together?
No. Let me hit it in reverse. I'd be willing to give up my prize young asset after Steph Curry, which is Jonathan Kuminga, to try to get me an immediate seasoned veteran that maybe could enhance our chances right away to get us back to the promised land. And no shade at Jonathan Kuminga, but I'm willing to mortgage his future with us for what we have left of not just Steph, of the big 3. Because every day I wake up, Steiny, I'm like, what are they really, what you just talked about, what constitutes a big change? You got to move a Draymond or a Jonathan Kuminga or Andrew Wiggins.
Or
you
Klay.
just have to.
A big move to me is pretty easy. It's losing either Draymond, Klay Thompson, Wiggins, or Kuminga.
Well, that's a lot.
I think if you move any one of those four, that would constitute as a big change, because three of them are champions, and one of them is your best young player. This from the 510, and this is interesting. Even if the Warriors win the title, I want changes.
Damn.
CP3 would be 40. Wiggins still inconsistent. If they win the title, cash in the chips while the value is high. All right, well, let's not go that far. Let's not.
Chris Paul might get a 4-year deal if they win a championship.
Man, he's got to be a starter. He's a starter in our league, right?
No, I don't think he is.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
I wonder, does he think so?
I don't think he's had as great a year as people think. I think he's been fine. I think he's been okay. I don't think he's been great, but I don't think anybody's been great.
Well, I was just following up with
Who's
that.
had the best year for the Warriors?
Jonathan Kuminga.
All right. Evan, you think that? Jonathan Kuminga has had the best year?
I'm trying to think, who would he even be up against?
He would be up against Curry.
Yeah, Steph, obviously.
I feel like that don't count, but yeah, that's a given.
It's probably one of the young guys, just from the progression standpoint.
TJD?
So Kuminga. If Trace Jackson-Davis starts the last 8 games of this season and you get looks like a piece, maybe.